In this video, we're going to import CAD files in each of the floors that were defined in the previous video. CAD importing is one of the ways that we can construct the model in RCB quickly, the other one being Revit import. So for each of the floors we defined in the previous video, we're going to import a stripped down CAD file into that level, so the non-typical floors. And basically the assumed knowledge for this video is the SLB CAD import video. Although a lot of the features that we cover in this video are also covered in the SLB CAD import video, we won't go into them in the same level of depth. We're going to focus on the aspects that are unique to RCB. Jumping to AutoCAD, we're going to have a quick look at some of the stripped down CAD files, and just to see how we've stripped them down so that they can import smoothly into the RCB software. If we look at the relevant layers, we see that each of the structural elements have been drawn into their own layers, so columns, slabs, wall, and we have wall panels in a separate layer. Zooming into the columns, we see the columns have been drawn in as a single closed form polyline, which is good, so they'll import correctly. The shear core wall, so this will be reinforced concrete, has been drawn as a single closed form polyline, wrapping around as far as it could go. And these individual walls have been drawn as segments, so these are going to be precast panels. So we see here we don't wrap a polyline around the entire wall because there'll be a discontinuity, there'll be no connection here, hence why they've been modeled like this. The other thing that we've done on this floor, which should be done all the time, is we've drawn a single closed form polyline wrapping around the perimeter of the slab. So just wrapping around the entire perimeter so that the mesh can, so basically there's no chances of the mesh being generated incorrectly. And we've got a few areas here of different loading. Now let's go to one of the typical upper floors and see what we've done here. So the column, there's just one of them, again drawn into its own layer, single closed form polyline. We have the wall panels drawn as single closed form polylines wrapping around each individual panel. The shear core itself, a single closed form polyline. And basically areas that will have different loading are defined. So the balconies, the corridor will have a different loading, areas with voids, so in the lift shaft, the stair cores. Other things that have been drawn are basically the stud walls. So if we wanted to be very detailed with our loading, we could import these or draw manually line loads over the top of these stud walls. But one thing that we hopefully won't be an issue, but we'll see when we mesh, is that we do not have a single closed form polyline wrapping around the perimeter of the slab. So we just have one polyline wrapping around the internal area, and we have separate polyline elements around the balconies. So it might be okay, it might not. We'll find out when we import, but the best way would be to have a polyline wrapping around the entire perimeter. Going to RCB, we'll just have one more look at our story heights that we created in the last video. So all of the floors are defined and labeled, heights are input. The floor master slaves have been created, so basically basement 3 and 2 will be the same, and level 6 to 11 will be the same as well. Now we'll hit cancel, and from the level drop down box here in the properties window, we select the level that we want to work on. So we'll start from the bottom and work our way up. So it's a larger building, but we'll see that with the CAD files cleaned up, we can import all the information, basically have the building created relatively quickly. So to import the CAD file, we go to the Home tab, CAD, and Load CAD Drawing. So we start with basement 4. Now, with the CAD floor loaded, we'll start importing the individual elements. We can isolate the individual layers from the CAD file by selecting layers and, for example, columns. We hit import from CAD on, drag and drop, and hit columns. We do the same again for the concrete walls. and for the wall panels. Now for this particular floor, because it is the bottom floor and we won't be modeling slab on ground, I won't model the slab. So we'll just have the vertical supporting elements, columns and walls. And if we go back to all layers again, the next thing that we do, which isn't necessary for this example because the CAD files have been automatically lined up, would be to set a reference point. So sometimes architectural CAD files don't line up exactly, sort of above below, so we would have to set a reference point. But these particular floors, the basement floors, have been set up so that this in CAD, so that this rectangular box is always at the 0, 0. One of the upper floors we will have to shift, but for these basement ones we don't need to do anything, which we will see when we go on the lower floor. So switching CAD off, we can see the structural elements that we've imported. So we're on the basement floor, B4 level, and these elements sit on B4 and run upwards, so they run between basement 3 and basement 4. And these are the elements that we can select. So the thinking was that when the old RC building was developed, the models would be created from importing CAD files. Architectural CAD files have elements drawn only on basically on the floor and above. That's all we see. So that was the thinking when we model in RCB and when we start selecting elements as well. So we can just have a quick look in 3D to see what we've done. So we see our ground level, and we have, that's our basement 4, and the basement 3 is above, nothing modeled there yet. So going up one floor, we see the elements below are solid, and if we go down to B4, the elements above are hatched. We can change the way that they are viewed, the way that they are colored based on above, below, by going to settings, viewing options, and changing this particular value. My personal preference is hatch solid because that sort of matches the SLB software, PTD software, and also sort of how we would draw it in a structural drawing. So going to B3, we see we can't actually select anything on the floors below. We also can't see the CAD file. So the next thing that we need to do is import the CAD file for basement 3 level. Going back to the Home tab, we go to CAD, Load CAD Drawing, and basement 3. So we just hit OK, and we can't exactly see things so clearly because of the elements below, the columns, walls below, so we'll just turn everything off. Now we can see that because of the way that it was aligned correctly in AutoCAD. We don't have to do any shifting, so just switching elements below on and off. We can see everything's perfectly aligned, so we can just jump straight in and start importing. Or even better, what we can do, because it looks like the columns and walls are the same above, below, we'll just go down, we'll keep that on, we'll go down to the floor below, simply drag and drop to select all elements, go to Edit, Copy to another floor, and we will hit Basement 3. Basement 3 is a master, so these elements will also be copied to the slave level Basement 2. Going back to Basement 3, we now have those elements above, below. Well, it looks like we have this one here as well. So columns and walls are imported, we just need to import the slab. So switching the CAD on, going to the slab layer, make sure we have import from CAD on, we drag and drop, and we hit the slab button so geometry lines are imported. Switching off the CAD, we have all of our columns and walls and the slab geometry line imported as well. So at this stage we're not worried too much about cleaning the geometry, fixing meshing errors. What we're focused on right now is to get all of the information in from CAD into the model. After we have these two floors imported, I'll just show you what's happening in the story heights. So if we go to the story heights, we can see that for these two levels we have CAD files present. So basement 3 and basement 4, two CAD files present. Now let's go up to B2. We see basement 2 is a slave of basement 3, so everything is copied up already. But we cannot select it because it's a slave level. Going up to basement 1, we'll import this floor next. CAD, load CAD. And as before, we can switch off elements below just for clarity. We'll start importing all of our structural elements in again. Import from CAD. Rather than selecting from the drop-down box, I will select the layer, right-click, and isolate that layer. So columns, walls, walls again, and slabs. So switching everything on and CAD off, basement 1 is now imported. Going up to the next floor, ground floor. So again, CAD, load CAD drawing. Lower ground, hit OK. Switch off the elements below just for clarity. We repeat what we did previously. So import from CAD, column, wall, wall again, and the slab. So we can see we're very quickly defining our structure without too much hassle. So let's go up one floor to level 1. So CAD, load CAD drawing. And up to level 2. Same process again. I'll just switch off elements below for clarity. So we can see that this particular floor, we didn't have that basically that guiding rectangle drawn for this case. So basically the walls, columns above, below do not line up. So one, we could go back in AutoCAD, put that back in, get the draftsman to do it, or we could just align them within RCB. So how we would do that, we go down to the floor below, we switch on the CAD, We zoom into a location that is going to run up the length of the building. So, for example, the inside corner of the shear core. We hit CAD, reference point, and set. So we make sure that our snap mode is snap to CAD. So with the CAD file visible, we have this additional snap mode. We zoom into this area, make sure we hit that exact point and hit that reference point. So now we go back up to level 3, switch our CAD back on. We see the reference point below. We then go to CAD, reference point, and match. So make sure we have snap to CAD on, zoom into this internal inside corner of the shear core and hit and left click so that the so that point matches above and below. So now with the CAD files matching, we can continue and import as we did previously. So now I'll just go ahead and continue for the typical upper floors. It'll just be more of the same, so I'll fast forward this next segment. But we've got a feel now for how quickly it is to start importing these floors, provided the CAD files have been cleaned up. So with all of the CAD files imported, basically that took approximately 10-15 minutes when it wasn't fast forwarded. We can have a look in 3D and see what we've imported. So it looks like it hasn't regenerated the slave levels, so I will do that by going to level 6, pressing one floor up, and that action should generate all of the slaves. So if we look in 3D again, we should see all those floors have been generated. So looks like some areas haven't been imported correctly, or the program's not recognizing it. Similarly in here, looks like through the center of the building it's picking up the balconies, but it is not picking up the internal slab. That is most likely a symptom of the fact that we do not have a close form polyline wrapping around the entire perimeter, which we will fix in the next video. But what we saw in this video was how quickly we could start importing all of the information from the CAD files into a basically into a model. So we made this 14-story building, including the lift overrun, in about 10-15 minutes. Now the next video will cover how to basically fix this issue up where we aren't seeing the slab panel in the interior of the slab, and we will clean up the meshing errors in preparation for the basically the first preliminary analysis.